Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Joe and today I'm joined by Mark, aka the FPL General, to see how his Hardenless season has been going and also how he did in game week 38. And he's going to be offering some words of wisdom, some lessons learned from this season so far. And we'll also find out some of your ones. Mark, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, Joe. Monday morning after another long 38 game week FPL season. It's always a bit of a relief when it's all over. I think anyone who takes this game seriously,
Yep.
it's a long season. And we get to enjoy a bit of a break now in the World Cup, and then we do it all over again, of course. So
Okay.
yeah, feeling good this morning.
Indeed, indeed. Just a reminder, do press that like button, does help us out. Do leave us a 5-star review if you're enjoying our content on podcast as well. And do subscribe as well. For over the summer, we've got lots of World Cup coverage. Then the game will launch, and then you'll want to be keeping abreast with the content even more as you prepare for the next season as well. And so we'll be trying to help you out a little bit there. So the aim of this video really is to sort of catch up, round off the season. But also, it's designed really, you can dip in anytime. So if you've missed it and someone says, oh, there's some good content on here, it should be valid all summer for you there as well. Okay, well, let's have a look and see how you got on in game week 38, the final game week. It's a green arrow. And before we just come into that, just take me through because everyone's game week 38 deadline experience is different. So for me, for example, I was at a comedy club, but I did have a spare 5-10 minutes in between driving and arriving to have a look at my phone and to see that Haaland was out. So I brought Bowen in, and that was my only move. And I just moved some City and Arsenal players to the bench and hope for the best. But yeah, how did your game week 38 go?
Yeah, the deadline was absolutely chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to be at home for it. I wasn't sure if I was going to be, but I was online. Got the news as everyone else did about Haaland, Cherky, O'Reilly. So obviously I had Cherky and O'Reilly, so that impacted me. It was about 20. I was kind of just waiting for as long as possible to see if anything else came through. It got to 20 past 2, so 10 minutes before the deadline, and I said, I'm not waiting any longer. I'm just going to get some moves done here. So I went Cherky to Foden, which felt like a pretty obvious one because I fancied Foden to play, given that some of the other names were not there. Although Marmoush backers got stung pretty badly on the same logic.
Well,
Not
if, and depending on their vice captain.
Yeah, true. I've seen some great stories
Yeah.
of, was it Tom Hadley -4 and then was Tavernier off the bench?
Yeah.
So yeah, there was some good stories out there. So I brought in Foden, and then I also, as everyone will know from last week's video, I was very keen on Watkins to Richarlison. I did not think Watkins would play.
No.
And as soon as I seen him in the starting 11, I thought this is not going to end well. And of course it didn't, because he's been absolutely incredible to end the season. So it could have been an even better game week. But I was always going to go Richarlison, so not too many regrets there. Captain Jared Bowen, I think you did the same.
Yep.
That came off quite nicely. Bruno Fernandes 14, Maguire was 6.
Yeah.
And I gave Jose Sa the run out on the final day, and he somehow gets a 6-pointer despite conceding. So that was a lovely way to finish the season as well. So yeah, very happy. 387k. That's the highest I've been at any point all season.
Okay.
And again, I keep saying it. Game week 10, I was 6.9 million. So very happy to claw it back.
I think it was pretty good. And as those that don't know, Mark's been going without Haaland this season. It's a bit of an experiment. We'll check in on that, see if there's any lessons learned from that as well. And also, yeah, I mean, I brought Bowen in. I only had one free transfer, and I was fairly certain I would get 10 to 11 starters. And I ended up getting 10 starters and one, and Gabriel came on. But I just looked at that and I just thought it made sense. Haaland's going to be benched, Bowen in, so I know Haaland's not going to play, Bowen in, and that just made sense that because it was something I was thinking about for months before. You look at game week 38, Bowen home to Leeds, probably some kind of relegation scrap, whatever, and who want to do well. So it just that made sense. I saw the Bruno Fernandes like hammer blow to Brighton, my side, but
again, just on the taking the hit as well. I don't take many hits, but I was looking at it like everyone else was on Sunday. Gabriel, Saka, O'Reilly. I didn't know if Semenyo would play. There was no guarantee Foden was going to play, so I just wanted to get 11 players out, and that's why I got rid of Watkins in in a season where I was, top 50k, top 100k, I probably would have just left Watkins in
Yeah.
and, hoped that he started. But again,
Yeah.
the logic was I didn't think he was going to play.
No. I think, we'll come to lessons learned in a second, but I think specifically for Game Week 38, and Game Week 38 in general, is have a good selection of talisman from teams that even if they've got something or nothing to play for, they'll probably play. I mean, Calvert-Lewin didn't do well for me, but I knew he'd play and he could have done something. Bowen just wanted to get in because I just knew he was going to play, so you can captain him as well. And you've got Anderson as well. You just knew. I mean, the only game week he doesn't get DEFCON. Although I don't know, did he get DEFCON in the end? I don't know with the update. I've updated your points, but not necessarily the player. So Hill's got 1 point on your team, but it should be 3 points there. But I haven't got the fancy skills to do that. But I did manage to change the points. Just for the benefit of those listening to the podcast version, Mark's final team was Sarr in goal, Virgil van Dijk, Harry Maguire, legend, Hill in a 3-4-3 with Foden, Anderson, Bruno Fernandes, the vice-captain, Semenyo, Thiago, Richarlison, and Bowen was your captain there. 69 points, green arrow, highest rank of the season. That is a massive success, I would say.
Yeah, very happy. It was, I think maybe around game week 26, game week 27, I was probably 500, 600k. So I was probably hoping I could actually kick on a wee bit further. But, in the grand scheme of things, this season was always going to be challenging.
Yeah.
And the rank, I went into it not worrying about rank, not worrying about mini leagues. But to see, a 387k rather than a 1.4 or a 3.3 million, it definitely feels like it was a fun season.
Yeah, I'm personally pleased I brought Bowen in because my vice captain wasn't actually Bruno Fernandes. It was Jack Hinchelwood because I'm a Brighton fan. I thought he would do better, but he didn't. So I'm quite relieved that I actually made that move. So well done all those that got what they wanted from Game Week 38. And if you didn't, it doesn't matter. It's just one game week. Who cares? Move on to next season. We go again to next season. And before we look at some of those lessons to be learned as well, just want to pause a sec because a quick word from Sam.
Do you have hundreds of photos sat on your phone using storage that you took and have never looked at again because they've shuffled down your timeline? Don't worry, you aren't alone, but there is a good solution. An Aura frame. An Aura frame is the perfect buy for your own homes as well as being the perfect gift. There are so many benefits to an Aura frame. They give you free unlimited storage, can be pre-programmed when you order them so that as soon as you plug them in they display the photos you have chosen, and you can add photos from anywhere in the world and at whatever time suits you using the free to download Aura app that is just so simple. And for a limited time, you can save on this perfect gift by visiting auraframes.co.uk to get £35 off Aura's best-selling carver mat frames, named the top frame by The Independent, by using the promo code SCOUT at checkout. That's auraframes, AURA, frames.co.uk. Promo code is SCOUT. Support the show by mentioning us at the checkout, and terms and conditions apply.
Okay, let's have a look at some lessons learned from this season. See what we can take into next season then. So got your first one here, which is centre-backs over full-backs. So yeah, I mean, have you been selecting... You often get some centre-backs in anyway. You've got Harry Maguire in your side over full-backs. But is that something that's been a particular problem for you this season? You know, that old thing of going for the full-backs over the centre-backs and not looking at DEFCON?
Yeah, I think this is definitely just a new thing with having DEFCON for the first time this season. I think we all love our fullbacks who can get forward. Some of them take set pieces, but getting the extra 2 points often is just massive.
Yeah,
and in a way, it hasn't killed off the fullbacks. Of course, there's a few here in the list. Truefair, for example, we'll talk about, and one or two others, Mateus Nunes. But for the most part, when it comes to choosing, particularly now cheap defenders, I think around 4.5 million, 5 million. If you're between two and you're not sure, and one's a fullback and one's a centre back, I think the centre backs just win out most of all, because of the DEFCON potential. And you look at my team to finish the season. I started Hill, I started Maguire, I started Virgil, I had Gabriel on the bench, so there's definitely a theme there. I think O'Reilly's the only outlier in my back five to finish the season because he's basically out of position. But yeah, it's if the game stays the way it is now next season with DEFCON, then again I just see myself targeting centre backs in game week 1.
Yeah, my instinct is DEFCON will stay. I think the experiment's worked. It's more points. It's brought other players into the game to do well. I think there may be a tweak. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would like there to be a tweak. I think DEFCON's gone slightly too far in that some people are getting DEFCON every week as well. So there needs to be a reward. So, for example, if you get, say, 20, 25 DEFCON points in a match, you still get your 2 points. And if you get 12 if you're midfielder or 10 if you're a defender, you still get your 2 points. I think there should be some difference there. I think those that do really well, there should be some kind of incremental thing like tiers there used to be in Sky, or perhaps make up to 10 to 12 DEFCON to get that, because a lot of them get that anyway. But that would reduce the number of centre backs doing it, and it would sort of reserve it just for the really good ones. But then I guess then everyone would just have those players. So what do I know?
I think they should, and I think they will tweak it in some way, because this was season one. This was the test season.
It's a good experiment.
I think it's gone really well, but I do think the threshold of 10 for defenders is too easy to hit. Some of them hit 20 plus. That tells you all you need to know. So they can either even just increasing the threshold to 12, I think would be good. The other thing they could do is if they just leave the DEFCON as it is, they could look at fullbacks versus centre backs this season and just incorporate that into the player prices next year. Make the centre backs that 0.5 more than they are just now, just to give us that extra temptation to go for a 4.5 million fullback instead of a 5 million or 5.5 million centre back. So I'm sure they will look at it. I think it's important that they get it right, because it's a very key part of the game. But I'm a fan of DEFCON, and I do hope they tweak it slightly, but it's certainly not far off from being pretty good.
I just want to say the FPL have done a really good thing, actually. It was something I've been hoping they would do. They did this for Game Week 38. They kept the game open until all of the changes from Opta and those types of things were put in place. And that's a really good thing, because they do that for the other matches, except for the last one. So you had this sort of slightly unfair situation there, but that's been rectified, and it's going to carry on to next season. So everything will be the same and accurate, hopefully. There. Just for the benefit of those listening to the podcast, I've just got on the screen there just to highlight this. The top 10 defenders by points this season: Gabriel, top centre-back; Gahey, Crystal Palace, and then Man City, centre-back. Senesi was next, 175 points there, centre-back. Virgil van Dijk, 175 points, centre-back. Tarkowski, centre-back. Trufa, full-back. O'Reilly, bit of everything. So he's not there for DEFCON, he's there for goals and things, and also clean sheets. Lacroix, centre-back. Nunes, full-back. And Mukiele, it's the season of Mukiele. It's, move over John Lundstrom. Although John Lundstrom's going to be back next season for Hull, if he stays there. But yeah, just to point that out. So just a couple of fullbacks there. Centre-backs, absolutely rule. So yeah, if you've got a decision, centre-back or fullback, if it stays the same with DEFCON, they're the ones. Next one, budget gems there. So yeah, now this is something I've been sort of banging the drum. Call this the Jadon Anthony memorandum, if it was a spy thriller about a cheap Burnley midfielder. Is to say, because you've been going hard on this, you've had lots of money, so you can spend it. But sometimes these cheaper players have actually done really well there. So yeah, explain a bit about this lesson learned.
Yeah, I think this is something that was really highlighted to me this season, given that I did have excess funds almost every game week. There was very often 4 or 5 million in the bank, and I'm kind of calling this the player price trap that we can all fall into. The players obviously get assigned a price tag in game week 1, and it doesn't change that much over the course of a season. So you can have a 5.5 million midfielder in game week 1, and by the time you get to the halfway point of the season, they could be performing like a 10 million asset. But we get drawn to the price that's on the FPL website. So we really need to I think we need to try and detach ourselves from how much a player costs, because the trap we fall into is if a player's more expensive, I think our subconscious says, right, they must be better. And Cole Palmer is the prime example for me this season. I had Cole Palmer more than anyone else. I got very little from him. And, when I go to buy a Cole Palmer, if I've got 10, 11 million in the bank, I look at him, I say, right, I can afford him, or I can afford a Saka maybe when he's, in and out of the team. And I'm overlooking these players that are staring me right in the face. Dewsbury Hall, Elliot Anderson. There's loads of them, Garner, Enzo Lafay. And I think that was one of the downsides of my strategy this season, was having too much money is not necessarily a good thing, because I don't go budget gem hunting. And we know me and you and many others playing FPL for 20 plus years, budget gems are so
Yep.
important. We get them every season. They're always different. If you plug them in, and you might play them some weeks, you might get them off the bench, but they can make such a huge difference. And
Yep.
if you've got a Cole Palmer, and there's other players as well that I've had this season who've got me very little. I had Brennan Buemo for a long time who was getting me nothing, and all the while these cheaper midfielders are getting DEFCON, they're chipping in with assists. So that was a big one that it's probably the main one I've taken away from this season, because I probably wouldn't have really noticed it as much if I had Haaland, if I had Salah, for example. So I'm definitely going to keep that in mind next year. If you've got a gift horse, staring you straight in the face, just go and get him.
Yep. Yeah. So for me, I've always been okay with this one because the three reasons. One is I instinctively I'm those sort of person who likes a band's first album. See, I instinctively like to go for something that's like a little bit different. And luckily, I do another video with Tom Freeman, who's very good at picking differentials, hugely good, particularly midfielders. So that I just get to listen to him every week. So that's great advice there. Also, do the Goals Imminent podcast as well with Mark Joblin, and that is under the radar gem. So I'm okay, but it's also important not to have too many of them. But yeah, I've got a list on here. This is top value players over this season. So this is points, divided by value there, and all of them are the most expensive at Anderson at 5.7, and you've got Alderete at 4.1, and this is the best value ones. All of them got between 179 and 100. I think the lowest one is 125. That's Alderete, but Anderson's got 180 points there. So you've got, these are really big scorers: Mark Gahey, Trufer, Senesi, McKaylee. So you've got these centre backs there. You've got Anderson there, who's been great for you in recent weeks. Van Heck's been pretty good all over the season, 148 points. Garner, who's been getting Garner in, but look at him there, 159 points, 5.2, brilliant. Lefay, I had him in my team for a little while, and he is great, and he's been really, really good. Alderete as well is another player I've had, and O'Reilly, which who we all know about there. So that's something we can take in. Obviously, it won't be all of these players that are the ones, the specific top 10 I've just read out. But there will be new ones, and you have to go budget gem hunting. So,
and that's I didn't know you were putting this table together, but it really drills it home for me, because I look through that list, and the only players that I have owned are Senesi, and it wasn't even for that long. Anderson, who only came in and gave me 30, and then O'Reilly, who everyone has. So that straight away tells me there's 7 or 8 players on this list that could have offered me exceptional good value if I needed them, but I overlooked them because I had too much money. And I had players like Virgil doing nothing for large parts of the season, for example, as well, among the defenders. So, yeah, that's definitely something I'm going to take into next season. And again, the list will be different, but it's trying to pinpoint them early, who's shown the potential of value. Hopefully we're going to have, hopefully we'll get a few more expensive 10 million plus players join the Premier League this summer, which will, force us even more down this path. So, yeah, I've definitely left points on the table with the cheap guys this year.
Okay, next one is specific for your season here, because you've been going Haalandless. The image I've got on the screen, which you can't see at the moment because we put that in the notes, it's just loads of pictures of Erling Haaland looking menacing and cheering.
I'm glad I can't see them.
Fist pumping after scoring. No, it would be your absolute nightmare. You would just projectile vomit if you saw this. You've been going without Haaland, and I just want to put this into context there so we can see how your special season's been going. World number 1, Eric Ibsen. First season, by the way. Total captain points, 611. Most captained, guess, Haaland, 21 times. You, 508 points. So it's 103 points difference immediately. Most captain, Bruno, 11 times. And there's a sprinkling of a few others as well, Saka, Palmer, etc. So that 103 point difference, you'd be top 40k. That's it. Get Haaland, captain him. There, you would have gone up 300. You'd be, top 50k, top 40k season. Surprisingly, me, I looked at my total collector points. So I finished at 114k. So I'm sort of in the middle, and I actually outscored the number 1 in terms of captaincy. So that proves he did all the other stuff right, and I didn't. But I got 613 once again. Haaland captained 21 times there. So. Yeah, Haalandless season. You can do it again.
Absolutely no chance. It'll be. It was the second half of the season was okay, but the first half just gave me such a mountain to climb. I should say as well, first of all, congratulations, Eric. Incredible victory on your, in your first ever season. I know if I was Eric, I would be taking the trophy and never playing this game again. Quit at the top
Yeah.
because you're not gonna do back to back. Although someone might do it sometime, but it's very unlikely. Very interesting. You put these captaincy points together as well. 508 for me. I feel like I did okay
Yeah.
considering not having
yeah.
Haaland. That's a good return. But again, it just shows you even those, 103 point difference or 100 point difference, whatever it is, how big of a jump you can make in rank. And when I think about the Haalandless season in particular with the captaincy, another lesson learned for me is just how valuable it is, even just to get a 6 point captaincy. So 12 points. Haaland scores, no bonus, 12 points. If I'm sitting there with a 2 point blank captain, those 10 points, 3, 4, 5 times, there's 50 points over 5 game weeks. It's massive. So it's not the hat tricks that I missed most from Haaland as captain. It was just getting a return from your captain. It's we take it for granted, I think. But if you've got someone like Erling Haaland who can do it very, very often, if you can just score even just one bonus, you're already setting yourself up for a good game week. Whereas if I'm scrounging around with differential captains who are differentials for a reason, then I'm up against it right away. I can be 10, 15 points down before a ball's even kicked. So that's one of the main reasons I'm looking forward to having him back. And I know Pep's going to be away and it could be a different Manchester City, but the player Erling Haaland, when he's on the pitch for 90 minutes, I fancy him to score in every game. And it's almost like that little base captaincy score that I missed this season. So it's there won't be any restrictions next season. It's going to be back to normal, and hopefully I'll be getting 600 plus captaincy points.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also, I think, captaining a player against the worst sides as well, Burnley and Wolves, that makes sense as well. So you can do that. And it may well be that someone just simply did that all season, and they may well have equalled a Haaland captaincy haul. Next season, it's going to be different. We've got 3 teams coming up. I can't remember who it is now. We've got Ipswich, Coventry, and Hull. So you would imagine they're there for the taking. No offence to them. But we thought that about Leeds and Sunderland. Looking at the way they've been playing in the Championship, you'd imagine Coventry might have a bit more to them, but you just don't know as well. Hull, I'm not quite sure. I'm certainly going to be captaining some players against Hull. I think Ipswich as well, where we saw what they were like last time. I don't know. Ipswich fans, please leave some comments. But also, going back to budget gems as well, each one of those 3 sides will have a budget gem. They will have a defensive midfielder who's amazing. They will have a centre-back who is amazing for DEFCON. They will have a striker like Fleming at Burnley who will just keep chipping away at value goals as well. So they're good to target for 2 reasons, I think. So, yeah, it is possible to go without Haaland, but yeah.
I think captaincy next season as well is going to be, it could be a bit tricky to start with, because another rule I would always try and follow is, avoiding players from teams that are in transition. But next season we're going to have big teams in transition.
Yeah.
Manchester City, new manager, Chelsea,
Yeah.
Liverpool might have a new manager. Obviously Carrick's been there for a wee while, but it's still, it's still a team in transition. So I think it's probably going to have to break that rule next year, because I'd be left with mid-table FPL players. But it's going to be interesting. Is Haaland going to be as good as he was under Pep Guardiola under a new manager, or will he, will the goals be spread around him more in a new system and new tactics? So there's it's going to be very interesting. I think the start to the season in particular is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And also the European places as well. So congratulations, especially to Bournemouth and Sunderland, and also Brighton are in Europe for the second time in their history. Not perhaps the European competition we want, but take it. European competition there. So you would imagine their squads will be stretched a little bit more. Meanwhile, this season, Manchester United have really benefited from not being in Europe. Look at the improvement they've made there. Chelsea not in Europe next season. New manager, a new ethos at the club. They claim as well. Parma, João Pedro could be good captains game week 1, depending on the fixture. Chelsea against Hull, game week 1. And then you got Haaland against, I don't know, Villa. I don't know.
I'll tell you one person who won't own Cole Palmer game week 1, and it's me. I don't care if he's playing Hull or Coventry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can prove himself first.
Speaking of Cole Palmer, we've got our next one here. We can call it two things, really. I call it premium pain. But the overarching lesson is that last season's gems weren't this season's gems. Okay, so this season's gems might not be next season's gems, if you see what I mean. So, so what I've got here up on the screen here, I've got 2024-25's top 10 players. Salah, top, 344 points. Wow. Brian Mbomo, Cole Palmer, Isak, remember him? Chris Wood, remember him? Bowen, Watkins, Wissa, remember him? Diaz. It's been so long ago, I can't even remember who was there. And then Haaland. And then you look at this season's top 10. Haaland, Bruno Fernandes, Gabriel, Semenyo at 2 teams, Gibbs White, Bowen, Declan Rice, we'll come to him in a minute as well, Thiago, Anderson, Elliot Anderson, Mark Gahey. So you can see the benefit of DEFCON there, but you can also see it's completely different players. Who would have predicted that top 10? Also, there are 2 players who were in 2004-25's top 10 and this year's one, Haaland and Bowen. And we don't know about Bowen. We don't know if he's going to stay at West Ham. I don't know whether he's going to move to a Premier League club, move abroad. If he moves to another Premier League club, will he be, if it's, say, Man City, not he's going to go to Man City, but, will he get the same level of minutes? So essentially, it's just Haaland. It's the most consistent over the last 2. It really puts it in context. It's quite shocking. So anyone who's saying, I think so-and-so is going to score 26, 27 season, this is going to be the top 10 players, they need to get a lottery ticket, because they are superhuman if they know that.
Yeah. So again, when I was trying to think about the lessons learned, I think it's definitely something I do more of than I should have. But I should is, thinking about owning a player in previous seasons and having good experiences with them. Every season is different, and that goes for teams and players. Players can have the best season of their life now, and then next season they can have a really quiet season, and they're just not good value fantasy picks. So I think the key takeaway for me is every game, every preseason, it's really hard to do, but you need to draw a clean slate under every player, and you just play the season that we're in. Because I always feel like every FPL season, it's like a book. It's like a new book every year. There's new narratives, there's new characters. Some old characters die off, and new ones emerge. And you've got to let go of the players that you have loved previously, and you feel tied to, you're biased towards, and you've got to embrace the Dewsbury Halls, the Elliot Andersons, the Mark Gaheys, whatever is happening right in front of you from a week to week basis. You let go of everything else, and it's probably one of the hardest things to do in FPL because we're not robots. Some of the analytics managers are much closer to being robots than we are, playing without emotion, not getting tied to players. And I think the more of that we can do, the better success we will have in terms of ranks in many leagues. Yeah. So that's the key for me. And again, you look at the list, the top 10 here from this season. Some of them might be there next year, but also you can bet your bottom dollar some of these guys are going to get a price bump as well. Yeah. So it's going to be harder for them to be good value. But yeah, the key is, if there's an example. Let's say Bowen and West Ham survived in the Premier League. Me and you have just captained him and gave me 38. We're never going to forget that. But that shouldn't be a reason for us to pick him in game week 1. Yeah. So it's a clean slate again next year.
Yeah, look at the drop-off with Salah. Drop-off with Cole Palmer, Isak as well. It wouldn't be surprising, though, to see some of these players back. But I think you're right. With the analytics way of playing it, it's hugely beneficial, but it's also can be detrimental, I think. And the analytics managers will hate this. But how many times have we looked at, the analytics, the model, and they say, who should you get in this week? Cole Palmer. Who's the best captain this week? Salah. Who's the best captain? Who should you get in? Isak. Well, when he wasn't injured, and so on. But where were they? Cole Palmer was often the worst. I mean, even this week, I think the models had Cole Palmer really high as well, and they have done all season. Meanwhile, you've got players on here, for example, who are doing well. And obviously, the models have picked up on Elliot Anderson being a really good value and all of those types of things as well. But they haven't really been. They were slow to notice Jack Hinshaw playing at number 10, for example, and scoring. What did he get within that month? He had 3 goals and an assist within a month or so. They've been slow to pick up on Gibbs White, for example, the value as well. So there's that tendency I find with the models. Expensive. Oh, they did well last season. Brilliant. Their best captain player to get in. I don't think they are.
They're obviously leaning on historical data as well, which plays a part in it. So it's I look at models. I like to see what they're saying. I don't base my decisions off them, but I do find myself quite often raising an eyebrow is probably the way to say it. A player rate it really highly, and I just don't really agree with it. There's plenty of times where I do think, right, those numbers make so much sense. They back up what I'm thinking. Bit of confirmation bias. The eye test looks good. The numbers look good. Let's go for it. But there's very often cases that you're watching games and a player is just not the player they used to be, or they're carrying something, and it's just hard to put your finger on why they're not performing well. It could be a tactical setup, but the models still like them. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever be I'll never go completely the other way and become an analytics based manager. I will always keep an eye on what's happening on that side of things. I do find it very interesting, and I like learning about it. But as long as I'm able to watch games, it'll be a combination of the two.
Yep. Okay, move on to the next lesson here. Defensive midfielders. There, I've got a picture of Casemiro here. Who would have guessed he would have got 165 points and kept scoring?
Crazy.
5.8. So the list here is the best defensive midfielders this season. You've got Rice, good value ones. Rice, 184 points there. Elliot Anderson, 180. Casemiro, 165. Garner, who would have got him? 159. Stack at Leeds. He was actually tipped. I remember reading some Fantasy Football Scout articles tipping him. So our Leeds fans know what he's about. 137 points there, not too shabby for 4.8. Yeah, I mean, defensive midfielders, suddenly, this is what I like about DEFCON. Suddenly, this whole group of players we can pick, and they're good.
Yeah, I think this cohort is the new most important position in FPL. And 4 of the 5 names here, if you take Casemiro out, all the others also take set pieces.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to remember, game week 1, are there cheap gems who are defensively minded, who will get a lot of defensive contributions, blocks, clearances, interceptions, etc., who also have at least a share of free kicks, corners, and if they take penalties, it's a no-brainer. But it's no surprise to see Rice, Anderson, Garner, and Stack perform really well at good prices, because you say it all the time, Joe, routes to points, avenues to points, and these guys are now key. There's definitely been more attacking players that I've owned at times this season. A winger, for example. A Mitoma comes to mind. Mitoma is a winger.
Yeah.
He can only score from open play. He doesn't take set pieces. He doesn't take penalties. He needs to do so much to get FPL points, whereas Stack, Garner, Anderson, or Rice can have the worst game of their life as a footballer, and they could come away with 2 assists and 3 bonus.
Yeah.
So these guys are absolutely key.
Yeah, I mean, Everton in general, Garner, like that. Dewsbury Hall can get goals and assists, and Dewsbury Hall stepping up, taking the corner. That's exactly what you want. Elliot Anderson, same thing. There's just so many. And Casemiro, the relationship you have with Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes steps up, takes a corner. Casemiro scores. Plus, he then gets DEFCON. Then he gets substituted off, possibly to keep his defensive point before they concede. So there's so many routes to points there. He's going this season. But we're looking for the new Casemiro from Hull, that kind of thing. But we are looking for that. We are looking for those players next season. Okay, and this is the final one from you. I've got a picture of Declan Rice here, and I've just got the top 10 featuring Rice in it. yeah, it's about backing your own judgment. Yes, what's this about?
This is about a tweet I sent out in July last year, and it was basically, I think I said, the more I look at midfielders, I can't look past Declan Rice.
Yeah.
Just as a no-brainer, easiest pick in the game for the new season with a new scoring matrix. And did I pick him? I did not, because that's what we do. We do too much preseason overthinking, and we go away from our initial instinct. So the lesson here is just back your own judgment, back your own research. Don't get swayed. I don't think I got swayed. I just went elsewhere. I probably picked someone else instead. But it's really, really frustrating. Then you're 10 or 15 game weeks in, and you're looking at it every week. I know Rice was much better first half than he was second half, but overall, if you had him for 38 game weeks and you got 184 points, that's sensational. What was he? 6.5 million maybe to start with. Crazy, crazy value. So if there's a player that you're going into a season or at any point in the season, and if you just think this is a absolute no-brainer pick him. Back yourself, because it's very, very frustrating if you don't. And I was very, very late to getting him in. And by the time I did get him in, he wasn't as good as he was. And I probably sold him. Probably sold him too quickly as well, because Rice is one of those players to benefit, you need to just plug him in and keep him there. So there's definitely a lesson there as well.
And also with Declan Rice, I think one of the lessons we were talking about this season's players perhaps not being good next season. The season he's had, he's playing all those minutes, just running up and down like a warhorse every week or twice a week. And then he's got a World Cup. Let's see how far England get, which he's going to play a lot of minutes for that. And then he's going to be back again. And he'll possibly get a price bump as well. Maybe Rice won't be so good next season. All of those factors point towards he could get injured a bit more.
Yeah. Another one comes to mind on this, back your own judgment. For about 5 or 6 weeks at one point, I was talking about Kadioglu every week because I was watching the games and he was getting into goal scoring positions every week. And then I finally went there on the free hit, and he ended up as my 15th player, and he scored.
Yeah.
So I didn't even get to enjoy the points. And that's what FPL is all about.
Yeah.
Finding someone like that who not many people will own, backing yourself, getting them, getting the goal, and then just celebrating it.
Yeah.
So again, if you see something, act on it and back yourself.
Yeah. So as for me, what we're going to do is we're going to have. I'm going to put a couple of my lessons learned, and then we've got I've canvassed the views of some of our viewers to see what they think as well about their lessons they've learned from this season. So for me, I think one of the big, some of the things I haven't learned, and I don't know if I will, and that is I will instinctively always pick an attacker over a defender. So if I have the choice of going 3-4-3, 3-5-2, I will over 4-4-2. And even though going for those all those budget picks, all of those lessons you've just said, all the pictures we put up with all the great stats of all those cheap centre backs, playing 4 at the back every week could have been really beneficial, because you're getting all of Mukiele, for example. Hill, Senesi. It's worth pointing out that De Zerbi's been really defensive-minded at Spurs. Senesi's about to join him, and Robertson as well. So a lot of us are going to be tempted by Robertson, and he could be good there. But Senesi at Spurs next season.
Senesi Porro double up for the set pieces.
Oh, that's it. I mean, and this is where analytics that shows its worth. Senesi, Robertson, Porro. Back line done. Just leave it. Chances, I bet you that ends up being one of you just leave that, not make any defensive changes. 3 at the back there, but have a 4th one playing every week. Of your choice, but just stick with that. But yeah, those kinds of things. But I would never do that, even though I know at the back of my mind that's going to get me more points.
Spurs fans are watching, thinking Joe and Mark are drunk here. Have they not seen Tottenham all season? And they're already talking about triple Spurs defence game week 1.
But that's it. Since De Zerbi came in, he's turned them around, and they're now one of the best defensive sides. Small sample, and maybe the analytics won't like that. It's too small a sample.
I know I said earlier about I'm going to contradict myself. I always say clean slate game week 1, but I always make mental notes towards the end of the season. Oro's a mental note I've already made for the start of next season. And I like your point you made there. I definitely do the same thing about always picking a forward in particular over a defender.
Yeah.
3-4-3 over 4-4-2 is almost always what I do. If I've got a forward, even if it's a cheap 5.5, 6 million forward, I will just almost automatically put them in. And I think that's more of an issue for people like myself and yourself who've played the game for a very long time, because we've just been programmed that way to play your forwards over your defenders. But we need to remember defenders can now get more points than they did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's something we should both try and embrace next year.
Definitely.
Maybe let's go 5 at the back game week 1.
Well, maybe. But, the other thing is that this has been a different season. This has been a season whereby, there's been fewer goals. So next season there may not be, in which case we'll all be thinking, why aren't we getting 3 strikers all the time and playing them? And so it may be the next season's slightly different. But, it's hard to tell. It's hard to predict. As you said, one of your key lessons to be learned there is this season's scorers might not be the next season's top scorers as well. A few lessons learned from those who watch FPL Slippers. Get a good start. Now we've got the chips, lots of chips. I'm really tempted to bench boost straight away. The bench boost in a bunch of single game weeks has as much value whatever week. So I'm very tempted to use the bench boost, get a good start, and look at that early rank. Oh, I'm top 40k, top 10k first off, rather than, oh my god, I'm 8 million, because psychologically you start tilting as well. So it's good to do that. I like that one from FPL Slippers, and I think that's a lesson I think I will take forward.
Yeah, and again, I was having a look yesterday. Eric, who won FPL, did get not a good start in terms of the first 3 or 4 game weeks, but by game week 7, he was 73k.
Yeah.
And then by game week 10, he was in the top 10k.
Yeah.
And I don't think he dropped out game week 29, he hit first place and he didn't look back. So a good start is very important. It doesn't have to be game week 1, 2, 3, 4, but the sooner you can get into a good spot, it does set you up very nicely.
Yeah. FPL Slippers also said, no matter what, you will always have bad game weeks. That is true. There will be bad game weeks. You're not going to get a good game week every week. And if you did, you're going to win it. And even, as you just said there, the winner of it didn't have the first good couple of game weeks, weren't very good for him. Andy Nash saying, don't ignore defenders, midfielders at consistently DEFCONs, backing up your points there. Don't be afraid to get players the models will miss, e.g. Hinshelwood. That was a point made earlier as well. Nitram, very similar point. The solvers pick Palmer and Salah, etc. They don't know it all. And Nitram also says, don't waste transfers. Nothing wrong with rolling. That's something you say every season. Anyway, we haven't said it as a lesson learned, because you don't need to learn that. You do that whenever you can.
Yeah, it's when the game refreshes and you set your bus team. I set my captain, I set my bench order, and I ask myself, can I roll a transfer this week? It's a good habit to be in.
Yeah. And Tony was saying had a few lessons here, but one of them was don't be afraid of backing against highly owned players. He does say e.g. Salah and Haaland. Obviously, going against Salah would have worked. You were an example of going against Haaland. It doesn't work there. So it's picking the highly owned players, spotting that Palmer's perhaps not the player he was, and so on. And so forth, but I think that's a good thing to look at as well. There,
yeah. I think the key, there's 3 words there. Don't be afraid. Play without fear. It's your team. Planet FPL James always says, play it your way, and I completely get behind that. There's just because players, again, just going back to the previous point, just because players are expensive, they're not going to score points every single game week. And if you can get a little spell where you've got a couple of differentials against highly owned, you can absolutely fly.
Yeah. And just finally from me, just wanted to thank everyone who's been watching and listening all season, listening to me chat to Mark as he's been revealing his team each week and discussing various points like we just been doing today about FPL in general. Thanks so much for watching and listening. I don't know if you've got any messages to your viewers and listeners.
Absolutely. Just to echo that, thank you to the viewers. I know we've got a very consistent viewer base, so thank you for tuning in every week, folks. We've really enjoyed it. I personally, 45 minutes with Joe every week is one of my favourite hours of the week. I grew up watching. I'm going to make you feel really old, Joe, but watching the Scoutcast every Tuesday night before I became an FPL content creator. So I always enjoy a chat with one of the best in the business. So thank you for hosting, and we look forward to talking to you all again next season.
Thanks so much. Yeah. See you next season. Bye now.
Bye-bye.